Common Knowledge is brought to you by our friends at Game Grid Midvale, our local game store who puts players first with weekly competitive events, below market pricing, and the best customer service available. Check out their online inventory using the link in our description.
We are also sponsored by inkgaming.com. Use coupon code CCMTG10 at checkout for a 10% discount on all inked gaming supplies and accessories. You can support the show directly through Patreon at patreon.com/common knowledge.
This is the Common Knowledge Podcast. It's not about the cost, it's about the knowledge. Here are your hosts, Brandon Clark and Lobbert.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 91 of the Common Knowledge Podcast. I am your host, Brandon, and I am joined, as always, by my trusty companion, Sean the Lobbert.
What is up this week, Brandon?
Not a lot. Just working. I've had one day off this week, and that was the 25th.
It's accountability time. Do you play any Popper?
Nope.
Oh.
I had one day off this week, and that was the 25th. So no, I didn't do anything.
I'm so glad that Christmas is over.
Yeah. Same. Was with family all day on Christmas and was working pretty much all day, every day, the rest of the week.
I got to play a little bit. I think this topic is kind of the reason why I didn't play a whole lot. I'm not jamming 15, 30 games in a week. But I played 3-4 casual games just for fun, and I feel like I had a pretty big breakthrough in my mill deck, and that was exciting. So I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about your breakthrough really quick? Because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, so in my mill deck, I was playing Repeal, the X and a blue for an instant, return target non-land permanent with converted mana cost X to its owner's hand, draw a card. So I was playing this just as kind of like a stall strategy. It replaced itself, so I felt I could justify it. And what I replaced it with was the Cloudkin Seer, and that's just the 2 and a blue for a 2/1 creature with flying, and it says draw a card. And it doesn't seem that different, but I've gone all the way from the deck starting with being like a group hug strategy where I'm letting the other person draw tons and tons of cards. We're both just filling our hand, and that's kind of I was trying to burn them out, and that just didn't work. I would get overwhelmed before I could get them below 20 cards. And then towards the end, I'm trying to do more traditional things of developing card advantage, making them use up resources, and it's been a lot more manageable. I'm not running counter spells or anything like that, and there's a good reason for that. I want to play all of my stuff at sorcery speed on curve to try to mill them. I need to get my mill cards out as soon as I can. And so being able to play this card at sorcery speed when they don't have any permanents out, and I don't have to sandbag, and there's not a turn where I'm okay, well, I want to return some islands to my hand, but I won't because I have to do a big repeal or something like that. It's just, I feel like I'm running them out of resources. They still have to deal with a 2/1 in the air. That's pretty decent threat alongside all of my other threats that have to be dealt with. It deals with flyers. I can block flyers now. Even if I trade with a fairy, that can be a pretty huge thing as compared to I have this repeal in my hand and I am not going to return your Spellstutter Sprite and I can't return your ninja or something like that. And so it's just smoothed out the deck a whole ton, and I don't know why I never thought of this card. It came out this summer and I knew it was good.
Was it Corset 20 or was it Corset 19?
Corset 20. But yeah, it's just a good little guy.
Yeah, it's a good card. I like it. But that's sweet. That's nice to hear that, your testing results for that deck have actually pulled through. You've made progress, because I thought it was kind of funny that you've been wasting time with Mill. So it's kind of cool that you've made you feel like you've made breakthroughs on the archetype.
It sucks because I was about an hour into... I've edited about an hour of footage I want to do a video on it, and then I make this breakthrough and I'm well, crap. Do I start over? I'm not gonna start over. I might just do 2 videos or something like that and make the less one less of a perfectionist and not go so deep on having to edit it and stuff, but I don't know, like Mill is appealing, and I've found like a lot more matchups where the opponent is gaining tons and tons of life, and I'm just like, this is kind of sweet. Like, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. All right, well, since I don't really have anything to talk about magic-wise, should we just get into card of the week?
Sure.
Card of the week.
All right, card of the week. I chose this one. I chose Tragic Lesson. Tragic Lesson is 2 and a blue, instant, says draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless you return a land you control to its owner's hand. I chose this card mostly just because it's been making its appearance in blue-based tempo decks alongside the card Mystic Sanctuary. I don't believe that this card is very playable without Mystic Sanctuary. I think that that's what like really throws this card over the top. When you think about just accumulated knowledge, because that's the one that I put in the show notes for an example. At its floor, it's 2 mana draw card, which isn't amazing, but like at its ceiling, it's 2 mana draw 4 cards, which is pretty incredible. You know, this card is always kind of like that baseline. You're drawing 2, and then you have the choice of taking a little tempo hit by returning one of your lands, or discarding one of those extra cards. Where this card gets really powerful is when you can start returning that Mystic Sanctuary. You know, it allows you to do stuff like play Mystic Sanctuary on turn 1 if you don't have a play and not feel bad. Because then later in the game, you're going to get that value back from Mystic Sanctuary when you return it with Tragic Lesson.
I like that you don't feel like you need to stack up on deprives to get like a continuous source of card advantage or anything like that. Tragic Lesson just also does that job, and it can just draw you into your existing counterspells and things.
But yeah, so I think that like even though this card at its ceiling is less powerful than a card like Accumulated Knowledge, I think this card is more just like consistently steady, right? Like it's always just fine. You know, 3 mana, draw 2, discard a card, or return one of my extra lands to my hand in the late game. It's just kind of fine. This card's instant speed, so it has that going for it. But it's then when you get to pair it with that Mystic Sanctuary and get that really powerful synergy that this card shines a lot. And I think it's just better than Accumulated Knowledge.
Yeah.
It's better in the mirrors because it doesn't. You're not playing this weird game of like, do I Accumulated Knowledge here, or am I just going to give my opponent an extra card? Or, you know, you don't have to play that weird game.
It makes more room in your deck too, because I don't think you want 4 of those spells. I think that playing a lesser number of Tragic Lessons is better.
Yeah, I think you want like 2, maybe 3. The card that I was playing before I had seen Tragic Lesson was Hieroglyphic Illumination, which is the single blue mana to cycle, draw a card, or it's 3 in a blue instant, draw 2 cards. I think this card is better than Hieroglyphic Illumination.
Yeah. One cool interaction that I would expect happens a non-zero amount of times is it has that gush effect, where if you play this at sorcery speed, you can bounce that land and then replay it. If you feel so inclined, if you're going to miss like a land drop, then it's essentially 2 mana draw 2. The fact that it gives you 2 options on what you want to do, like even if you want to like, okay, I'm going to draw 2 and discard an island or something, it's not going to be that impactful. You're going to be able to keep your mana high and, you know, keep up if that's the priority.
That's always just like the gush effect is, you know, when you're returning lands, it's always just like the hidden mode of you get an extra land drop that turn or whatever if you weren't going to make it anyway. So, yeah. Tragic Lesson. I think it's a pretty strong card. I think it's part of what's starting to give these blue tempo decks legs again. You know, we're seeing the blue-red tempo decks, the fairy Scred decks picking up. Mono blue Delver seems to be the Delver deck of choice right now. And then Delverless Scred, all playing some number of this like Tragic Lesson, Deprive, Mystic Sanctuary package. So, yep, if you're not doing this in your blue tempo decks, I think you should be. And, you know, it's something to look out for. It's something that you should be prepared to see because you're going to see it when you're playing against these decks. All right, let's jump into the main topic.
Main topic.
What is our main topic for today?
Well, today we're going to be talking about Burnout. Burnout is 1 in a red. It's an interrupt. It says counter target interrupt spell if it is blue. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Gotcha. Jaya Ballard, Task Mage.
That's an uncommon, Brandon. Why are we talking about Burnout?
Oh, well, we're actually not talking about the card Burnout. We're talking about the feeling of burnout when you are grinding. I think a lot of us have felt it, especially any listeners among us who have tried to grind competitive or are trying to grind out those format points or just trying to get trophies, whatever it is you're trying to do in Magic. I think we've all experienced that feeling of burnout where you're just like sick of it.
Yeah, it feels like the natural progression is you get into Magic and then you turn up the dial and you're like, okay, now I go to play Magic every day on this day, maybe with friends, and then you turn it up and it's like, okay, now I'm playing with strangers at FNM. Turn it up another notch, and now you're playing for more money competitively. And keep going. I'm reading Magic articles, listening to Magic podcasts, spending a bunch of money on Magic. Magic is becoming my life. It seems like the natural progression, and then one day you could just end up being like, the idea of sitting down and playing a game of Magic is worse to me than sweeping my floor. That's what ends up happening to me a lot of the time, is that I start procrastinating playing Magic. And that's not good. It's supposed to be fun, right?
Yeah, it should be that thing where you're like excited, you're at work or whatever, you're at your desk, and you're like, spreadsheets and Excel, and I can't wait to go home and play Magic Online, or it's Friday, I'm gonna go play FNM, and I'm so excited. I'm pretty much exactly what you were talking about. Like, I started playing Magic, and I played casually with my brother, and we played, and then one day we're like, found the Wizards store locator website and found a store nearby, and we went there and we played, and I met a bunch of like people who have been my friends for years now, and I just was like, this is so much fun. And every Friday it was that I'm so excited. Friday's here, I'm gonna go play Magic, I'm so excited. And then I remember I went to the store one day, like after work. I think I had worked a morning shift at Little Caesars or something, and I went to that store, and one of my friends was there. He's like, I'm gonna go play at this GPT in Salt Lake, and I was like, tell me more right now. Basically, yeah, it's a Grand Prix trial. Like, if you win, you get buys at the Grand Prix. And I was like, are you going to the Grand Prix? He's like, no, but I'm just going to go play. And that was kind of weird to me. Like, okay, why are you going to go play if you're not going to play at the GP? Seems weird. But we hurried and got together a standard deck for me really fast. And then we went and played this GPT. And I took 9th. This was like my very first non-FNM tournament. This was the biggest tournament I had ever played in that wasn't an FNM, Comp REL, 18-player, Wednesday night GPT that went until 1 in the morning.
That first hit a crack, really.
I was hooked. I think within the next month, I had really dialed in my standard collection. Like, I had almost every deck you could want to play in standard. I was like getting ready for the next, like, there was a PTQ, because this was before PPTQs. It was just PTQs and 200-player tournaments. Like, they were so cool, and I was so excited. Right, I subscribed to Star City Games Premium, and I did all those things, and this lasted for like a year of me being in this mentality. And then I got married and started working a more serious job, and it just like life happened, and I kept trying to keep up with this lifestyle of I going to a PPTQ every week, or I'm going to whatever the tournament is that week, I'm going to it, and I'm playing FNM, and then I'm also like meeting up with people and play testing during the weekdays, and it just compiled on me to the point where like I kind of just like stopped playing Magic for a while, like outside of like limited. And it was just like, okay, I can't do this every week. I'll play FNM, a couple times a month or whatever.
I feel like that's interesting how it's like, it starts as a way to decompress and relieve stress, socialize, and it can morph into something just a job. Like, it feels like that sometime for me. Like, how could it not with I have a podcast to run, I have to do editing, I'm not playing Magic during those times, and all of my playing Magic relates back to all of those things, and so I just spend all of this time thinking about it, and so it's really important to figure out ways to not burn out. We've been going for 2 years, a weekly podcast. We should be at 110 episodes or something like that, but we're not. And one of the reasons is that we've apologized for it, kind of. We're not that sorry for just like
hashtag sorry not sorry. Like,
yeah,
sorry you guys don't get to hear an episode, but also for our own sanity, we're not doing an episode this week.
Just take a step back. Like, okay, this week I'm just gonna be Sean. I'm just gonna be a guy. Like, I feel like sometimes I don't get to just do that because, like,
it's weird thinking about you in like your professional life where people know you as Sean Stokes and not Sean the Lobbert.
Yeah, I'm somebody's boss, man. I feel like the most obvious thing, like, I was searching around the internet of like, what do people do? And the most important, like, the biggest thing people would go back to every time is you take a break. That's what we do with the podcast. It's tough when you have obligations, though, like whether it's to people that you know and that's your relationship with them, is that we play Magic together and I don't want to give up this friendship and I want to be there for them. But man, Magic is weighing on me right now. It's just too much.
Yeah, I found that too. I don't hang. There are a couple friends. Some of these friends that I had initially made the first time going to F&M who just stopped playing Magic, and I am no longer friends with that person. I don't really communicate with them at all. Like, I don't know where they are, etc. But I do have a friend in particular who we just found other stuff that we enjoy. Like, we just enjoy each other's company enough that we don't need to be playing Magic. So, like, we'll go and see a movie sometimes together, or we'll go eat ramen. That's like our biggest thing, right? Is the two of us are like just ramen junkies. And so generally we'll go draft after we eat ramen, but mostly it's for the ramen. But yeah, I think that's like the easiest thing to do is take a break. And that was like at the end of our notes, take a break, but I think we can just talk about it here. I think that when you're burning out, just sometimes you need to just take a break. Sometimes, for me personally, what I think is important if you're taking a break, kind of like set a goal for when you're going to come back. Like, okay, I'm just taking this week off. I'm not going to think about Magic. I'm not going to play any Magic. I'm just going to like focus on other things that I want to be focusing on. And then next week I'm going to get back into the grind, or maybe it's just a day. Maybe it's a couple days. I don't, whatever your own, I guess, schedule is with Magic, or whatever your own personal goals are for Magic, you can adjust accordingly for what you want to be doing.
I know that just the distance or whatever makes the heart grow fonder of, like, if you don't allow yourself the option, like, I made this commitment to myself or to my significant other that I won't do anything or nothing to do with Magic the Gathering for X amount of time, and then when you're allowed to go back, you want to, where before you were just like, I'd rather do my dishes. Like,
yeah. Well, it's interesting how you interpreted that, because I meant set a goal for when you can come back, not like, or like when you should. Like, I'm taking a break, and then you just like a month later, like, maybe I should go play Magic or something. I mean, like, I have to play Magic starting at this time. My break is. I meant it more in that sense.
I mean, it's gonna work different for everybody, and that's what my mind went to.
I think it's funny that our mentality was so different. So if yours was like set a goal so you can look forward to it, mine was like set a goal to like force me to get it to start playing again.
Yeah, I mean, we did just skip over half of the notes here and go to the recovering from burnout section, and I think since that's happening organically, I'm just gonna keep going there. But I have this point of force yourself to play Magic again. You love it for a reason. Please come back. And I have to force myself to start again sometimes, like you said, of I don't want to do this thing. I just played a month of Tron because early 2019 we did that and I wanted to quit. I hated it so bad. And like, I know that it's number one deck. I should be researching it and looking into it, but I refuse because that was so bad to me. But what happened at the end of it was like, okay, I'm gonna, like, I don't want to, but I'm not gonna play Tron. I'm gonna play Burn. I want to play Burn. It seems like a good way to decompress. And as soon as I started doing it, I was just on cloud nine of like, wow, this is fun. I'm doing what I want to do. I can't wait to play another game. And that's how it should be. But it took forcing myself to like sit down, and it felt like drudgery to do that.
Yeah, I actually had like the exact same experience when at the beginning of the month, when I set my goal to play at least one league a week. The first league that I played was with Blue Red Scred. I found that, like, I think I went like 2-3 or 3-2 in that league or something. Like, it wasn't like amazing, but it wasn't like horrible awful. I think it was 3-2. I don't remember, but I found at the end of all the games I played, I was just like exhausted. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, that was challenging, sequencing and all the everything. And then I was just like, I'm playing Burn on the next league. I don't care. And yeah, I went 4-1 in that league and just had fun every single game. Just like, how you tapped all your mana, lightning bolt, fire blast, got him, yes. Next game, and I like finished a league in like 2 hours, like an hour. It was just like so fast. Just played all my games in under an hour.
So is our tip, play Burn? Is that, if you're feeling burned out, play Burn?
Well, I mean, probably not.
I seriously think like playing a deck that does not have such complex decisions, like making it easy to play again. I mean, if you're feeling like it's drudgery and you don't want to, and then you go in and play like, okay, I have a deck that I need to think 3 turns in advance, sequence my spells this way, consider the things that I have to assemble, and if I'm at my height of wanting to play Magic, it's still difficult. That's why we love the game, is that's a hard thing to do. And if you're having a hard time anyway, don't make it harder. It seems pretty simple, but yeah, playing Burn has brought, like, that's my go-to, like, all right, well, I should play Magic, but it needs to be easy. Let's play Burn.
That's usually how I treat elves until I started playing elves online, and then played the elf mirror. Even in paper, the elf mirror is like a nightmare. I don't know. Playing elves online is just a nightmare in general. Even though it's one of my favorite archetypes. I love playing elves. It's so fun. But when playing it online, it's just like, okay, click here, click. Okay, yield to this, yield to this, yield to this, yield to this. It's just like, oh my gosh, triggers. But it's weird. For me, one thing that helps me to beat the burnout is to go play paper. Something about just like going to a draft with friends, and we're just playing Magic and we're drafting, and like the games are still competitive because we want to win, right? But it's not like, it's the experience. I drafted, I'm with my friends, I'm having fun, but when I'm playing Magic Online, it's like, okay, I'm trying to hit that 5-0, I'm trying to get those format points, whatever.
Yeah.
It feels like work.
That's a really good point. I never think about that because I've kind of decided that paper Magic isn't as much for me as online, just for all of the reasons I've talked about before. We won't get into that.
Opinions, etc.
I just prefer to play online now. But I feel like that hits on the point that we have written here of, tone it down, play casually. You're not playing just stats, numbers. I need to win X amount of games to be positive, to get my ticks back, to do XYZ, get my format points. You're just playing for the enjoyment of the game. And it's kind of beautiful. But you have written here, play Cube, EDH, Oathbreaker, Pioneer. You can just have fun playing those. Like, borrow a deck. play with some people that you know you're gonna have fun with, and you will have fun. Like,
Yeah. So you know that I'm not really much of a brewer, and I don't like to brew, and I like to just kind of like find what the most powerful archetype is and hone in on and learn that. But with Pioneer, what I'm loving so much right now is just taking all my old favorite cards from Standards Past and just like playing those cards. So recently, not this past Tuesday, that was Christmas Eve, and I was at work. The Tuesday before that, I went and played the local Pioneer tournament at Oasis Games, and I played Blue-Red Dynavolt Tower. Dynavolt Tower is like a 3-mana artifact. You pay 5 energy and tap it to Lightning Bolt something. And it was just like a blue-red control deck. Tons of removal for creatures, Lightning Bolt, stuff like that. Or it gets Harness Lightning, because Lightning Bolt's not legal in Pioneer, but the deck was terrible. I think I went 1 and 2, but it was so much fun. I had so much fun playing it.
but you won a game. That's the beauty of brewing, is you play a deck that's not going to win very often, but the one win takes you so far.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just like, for me, Pioneer is just like really a really fun format for me to just play my old favorite cards. I'm like, I remember playing this card Standard and loving it. You know, the next thing I probably play in Pioneer is going to be some sort of Jeskai Ascendancy tokens deck, you know, with like Stoke the Flames and stuff like that, and Treasure Cruise. Because I was playing, I mean, I have competitive Pioneer decks built. Like, I have those cards in my collection. You know, I could be playing the tier 1 Pioneer deck of the week. I just like, oh, I'm going to play Dynavolt Tower this week. Or like, I'm going to play a deck with Domri Raid in it this week because I like that Planeswalker. So, it's just like, it's like you said, it's really fresh. It's just like, I'm enjoying Magic for Magic. I'm not like stressing out on like, oh, I gotta get those wins or whatever. I'm just playing Magic because it's fun. Have fun. That's how you beat Burnout. Have fun.
I feel like we're backtracking here, going back up the show notes.
Yeah, we kind of started at the top, and then we jumped straight down to take a break, and then we've just been like going backwards.
Yeah, I'm happy just going just completely backwards and doing this one next.
Let's do it. How do you recognize Burnout, Sean?
It's kind of those things that we said initially. We already said, because we were out of order. The feeling of dread when you're thinking of Magic, like, that's the biggest thing for me, is like the idea of like having to play a game is a negative thing, and I have that feeling of dread. I start playing, I have fun, but then I go to do it again and I get that same feeling. Like, that's the initial thing for me, and if I let that keep going, then I don't even have fun playing the game, and it just kind of like steamrolls from there, and I have to do some of those recovery techniques of just trying to make it fun for myself. Like, I refuse to think of myself as a super competitive person. I've never been that way. I like to think of myself as a brewer, and I feel like I'm a pretty good brewer, and I have dreams of going and doing a bunch of fun things, but just I can't take it. I stress myself out too much if I start doing that. And so I go back to brewing and play something nonsensical, lose a whole bunch of games, and feel good about it because I feel like I'm making progress. How do you recognize your burnout?
Honestly, when it starts feeling like work, right? Like, pretty much exactly what you said, that feeling of dread. I'll come home from work, and you know, my wife will be at work. She works a grave shift. Son's asleep in bed, and I'm like, I could watch YouTube or play a video game, go to sleep, or I could play Magic. And when the thought is, ugh, play Magic, like, I just want to relax. Like, when I'm at the point where I feel like playing Magic does not go hand in hand with like relaxing and unloading from my day, that's when I know I'm starting to get burned out. And it happens mostly when I'm like hyper focused on like trying to grind into something, or I have to play test for a tournament or whatever. That's when I find I get burned out the most. And so that's sort of how I recognize it. Basically the same thing that you said. But I think one of the best ways in beating it is when you start recognizing like, okay, I'm starting to get burned out. We talked about some of those recovering techniques. But one thing that I've always found works for me to just kind of keep burnout from ever surfacing, like from ever even getting to that point where I have to like, okay, I got to step back, I got to try something new or whatever, is I like to set goals for myself.
Hmm.
So like that's what I did this month. You know, I knew that like school's out, I'm just working, I'm going to have a little bit more free time. And so I set that goal of 1 league a week. And, you know, I'm really competitive with myself, especially. And so setting a goal that I need to, you know, makes me feel responsible to it. You know, it helps me feel like I'm not just like aimlessly jamming games and not making any progress. Like, oh, I played 50 games with this deck in preparation for this tournament and I don't feel like I've improved or learned anything or blah. That's, I think, one way burnout can set in. But when you've like created a goal for yourself, of like, okay, what am I trying to accomplish? What is the end game for this? Like, why am I doing it? And you set that goal and you make it, you know, a goal that you can kind of measure, and it's something that you can attain. I think giving yourself something to work for, at least for me, helps burnout from ever even surfacing.
I feel like that's like a topic we didn't put in our show notes, but like the prevent yourself from burning out rather than burning out and then having to recover and, you know, take a break. Don't go so hard into it that you can't take it. I don't know. You just got to have other things that you want to do too, and push yourself to be too competitive. I feel like we glorify that in our communities of like, the more competitive you are, the higher win percent you have, the more we respect you, or the more, you know, all this stuff. Like, I feel that all the time, and if I can just, okay, I don't care. I'm playing Mill for a month. Like that's what I'm doing, and it's working. Like, I'm getting more and more excited about it. Like, I find that on my lunch breaks I want to pull out my phone and look at the Popper Reddit, and like, I'm finding new people to read articles from, and I'm not forcing myself like, okay, Sean, you will read 1 article a week. Like, it's funny how setting goals for you is a way to prevent burnout, and that's, I think, the best way to make sure that I burn out is to set a goal for myself. Like, even if it's attainable and it's a good goal, I'd feel forced.
And see, it's that feeling of me just spinning my wheels that causes me to get burned out, where if I set a goal, I can at least go back and look at like my progress, even if I don't hit the goal. Like this month, I'm not going to hit my goal because this week's been crazy. This is the busiest week of the year at the restaurant. You know, I've worked multiple 12 whatever hour shifts, and then I worked 6 days this week. My only day off was Christmas Day, which was, you know, obviously spent doing Christmas things with family, not playing Magic. And so I can look back on my goal now and go, okay, how did I do? Okay, well, 3 out of the 4 weeks this month, I played a league. Well, what happened on that 4th week that I didn't? Oh, well, this happened? Okay, well, I didn't hit my goal, so I can't say I hit my goal, but I don't feel like I failed in my goal. Like, the intent was still there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I can like look back on my progress and see how I did and feel like I've actually achieved something. Whereas if I don't have a goal for myself, I'm just like spinning my wheels, right?
Yeah.
I'm just playing to play, jamming games. I hate that term, jamming games. It just feels so, you know, when people are playtesting, you know, it's like, hey, let's jam some games of Standard. You know, that's not playtesting. You're just playing games. You're jamming your heads into each other and seeing if anything happens.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
like,
directionless.
Yeah, I'm playtesting for a tournament. Try to play X games of Magic Online with this deck because I want to understand why reaction, like interaction. Like, I want to understand how this interaction works in this deck or whatever. Have a goal of some kind, right? Like, have your testing or whatever be focused on something, or
Mhm.
even just your playing be focused on something. And that focus could just be fun, right? Like,
Yeah.
my goal is to just play EDH this month. I want to play a game of EDH, and the goal for that session is to get with my friends and drink beers or soda or whatever your beverage is, and eat snacks and just play and have fun. Like, that could be your goal for your gaming night or whatever, you know. So for me, that works because I just can't feel like I'm spinning my wheels. That's what burns me out.
And we've talked about before how enjoying playing the game gives you like a higher win percent. There's just like a fun bonus that gives you percentage points. Like when I'm playing,
You from going on tilt.
yeah, that's what I get out of brews. Is if I'm playing a brew, if I'm eking out wins to just get over 50%, I think I'm going to be doing better in the long run because like I can improve on that and whatever. But if I'm going to be the best burn player and I just want to play burn to just like know that deck so good, I'll just make lackadaisical plays like, okay, I guess I'll just burn this. Oh, I knew he had a spell stutter sprite. Why did I cast that spell? Like, it's because I'm not engaged and focused. So it's important. Like, that's another thing about Burnout is you're lowering your win percent if you were closer to burning out.
Definitely.
One thing with like kind of going more casual, unplugging a little bit, is a lot of people feel like they're going to be out of the loop. They're going to have to play catch up. They're going to be worse off if they take a break, so they don't take that break. And then I think that they're actually worse off because they're not having fun anymore. Do you think that's a genuine thing to worry about?
Definitely. Your brain is a muscle, right? How do you develop your muscles? You exercise.
Yeah.
But you can't just exercise 24 hours a day every single day. That's going to be detrimental to your body. So, I ran cross country in high school, and we were encouraged to run every day except Sunday. We were encouraged to not exercise at all on Sunday by our coaches. And that was because we've spent that whole week, Monday through Saturday. Saturday was race day. Monday through Friday was practice. We spent that entire week breaking down muscle and building it back up so it comes, stronger. But you got to give your muscles that time to relax so that they can heal and recover and they'll come back stronger. I think your brain is probably the exact same way, right? It's a muscle. So you're working your brain, you're expending all this mental energy, trying and developing all this stuff, and then you take a step back, you relax, focus on something different, whatever. And then when you come back in, you have all this mental energy still like ready to like, okay, pick it up. And I feel like for me personally, I think about like a video game that you've played and you're stuck on this point and you're just jamming your head into this point in the video game. And you're like, I cannot get past this. And then you stop playing that game for like a month or a year or however long. And then you come back and like that, you're past that point in the game.
I'm mad that you said that because I wanted to say that. Like, I was big time into Guitar Hero in high school, and I would go into the song. I want to get whatever on this song, and I would try and try for hours, just over and over and over, and I just couldn't get past a part. And then like I'd take a small break. I would say even overnight sometimes, but like sometimes 2 or 3 days, maybe a week. I'd come back and just ace it. Yeah, exactly like what you were saying. And I think part of it is that sometimes your brain needs time to like solidify those connections.
Yeah, or even just process all the information you've been trying to put into it,
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't figure out a matchup or an interaction or like what. And you take a step back, you take a break, and then, in a day or two, it just like clicks and you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of this? And then you go back to that matchup and you're like, oh, solved it.
That's Cloudfin Seer being put into my mill deck to a T. That's exactly what it was. I hadn't played that deck in probably 5 days, and I was trying to fall asleep, and I just snapped awake and went, Cloudfin Seer. Like, that goes in the deck. I stood up out of my bed. Cloudkin, sorry.
So that
Cloudfin Raptor is stuck in my mind. I think I need like a week to...
There was some nerd out there yelling, Cloudkin, you moron.
Okay, sorry. I did say that wrong. But Cloudkin Seer, like, I stood up out of my bed, butt naked, went over to my computer, put it in the deck, and fell asleep like a baby. It was the most satisfying thing. And I woke up like the next day, came home from work, and just tested it, and I was like, this is exactly as good as I thought it would be.
Boom.
But naked.
End times.
All right, well, that's the show. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Common Knowledge. Again, big thank you to all of our great sponsors at inkgaming.com and GameGrid Midvale. Check out their online store in the link below, and don't forget about that coupon code CCMTG10, good for a 10% discount on all Ink Gaming supplies and accessories. You can find the show on PureMTGO.com, as well as the Constructed Criticism YouTube channel. You can also send us an email if you'd like to at commonknowledgemtg@gmail.com. We love your emails. We love reading them. You can find the show on Twitter at CKPodcastMTG, as well as our ever-growing Facebook group, Common Knowledge. And Sean, where can the listeners find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Lobbert8, that is Lobbert and the number 8, as well as YouTube. You can find me if you just search for Lobbert. I have videos of me playing Pauper, usually Pauper Leagues there, so check that out.
Boom. And you can find me also on Twitter at bclark_CK. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye forever.